You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
We're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Now it's time for Friday Nights with Nautica de la Cruz.
Thank you so very much, Mo. I love disco. I'm going to go home and play some Donna Summers tonight, most definitely.
I'm going to play some tonight. I'm going to beat you to it.
All right, you do that. All right, well, it's time for Discover SoCal, and I recently discovered the Cruise Newport Beach, which is in the heart of Newport Beach, where the coastline meets luxury yachts and vibrant marine life. I embarked on a journey that would leave me absolutely mesmerized. The cruise with Cruise Newport Beach promised a slice of paradise, and I tell you, it did not disappoint. Aboard the majestic Newport Princess, I was whisked away on an adventure filled with awe-inspiring views, impeccable service, and moments that would linger long after the trip. The Newport Princess was no ordinary yacht, I have to tell you. Just imagine stepping into a floating palace where every detail exudes sophistication. Spacious decks stretched out like an invitation to bask in the ocean breeze, while with some very nice plush seating. They had advanced navigation systems and modern safety features ensured our voyage was as secure as possible and was very comfortable. Also, listening to safety rules is very, very important when you are aboard the Newport Princess. I always say safety first because I am too cute to die. The onboard kitchen was a culinary haven, serving gourmet meals and a selection of fine beverages that turned each meal into a delight event. As we set sail, the cruise took us through some of Newport's most enchanting vistas. We began our journey at the bustling Newport Harbor. That's where you go on for your journey. And then we just stepped onto the yacht, which was very luxurious. And we got to see the scenery was kind of something of a glamorous movie. We curved around Balboa Island, where charming houses and the iconic Balboa Fun Zone, you can't miss that, yes, painted a picturesque backdrop. As we ventured into the open Pacific Ocean, the expansive body of water stretched before us, inviting us to lose ourselves in the beauty as the sun was going down, and the pictures that we took were beautiful. The thrill of spotting sea lions basking on distant rocks and seabirds soaring overhead added a touch of wonder to our experience. Each sighting was a reminder of the magical world beneath the surface around us. Now, I didn't get to see some sea otters because I am madly in love with sea otters, but I got some sea lions and I got some beautiful birds, so that's okay. On board the Newport Princess was a sanctuary of relaxation and joy. It's even better when you can be on cruise control with a bestie or a partner. Now, the crew was warm and attentive, and most of them had a really good sense of humor. They made sure our every need was met with a smile. Gourmet dining was a highlight, with meals with delicious drinks and live music performances, engaging games, and interactive activities ensured the entertainment flowed as seamlessly as the ocean waves. Comfortable lounges and sun decks offered perfect spots to unwind, soak up the sun, and enjoy the breathtaking scenery. Cruise Newport Beach is a symphony of luxury, adventure, and relaxation. Whether you are celebrating a milestone, or this is a first date, or you just want to catch up with a girlfriend, this is something you should definitely experience. In every way, Cruise Newport Beach exceeds my expectations. And the best part was I got to enjoy it with a best friend, and we got to catch up on life, because sometimes you just need that once in a while. So if you want some more information, if you want to experience it yourself, you could go to cruisenewportbeach.com. Now, prices do vary from $25 to $80, but she ended up getting a Groupon. I didn't even know Groupon was still happening, because that was back, it was hot like in the early 2000s. Uh-huh. But she got a Groupon. She got a really good deal. And so we went and we discovered it. And it was really, really nice to just have a drink, have a good meal, get to know people. You're stuck on this beautiful yacht for about 2 hours. So you get to know people, what they do for a living, and it's kind of like in-person social networking.
How many people about are on the yacht?
Oh, I don't know. I would say less than 100.
Okay, no, that's okay. That's a reasonable amount of people.
No, the yacht is nice. You know, I'm sure they seat more, but it all depends on, you know, how many people actually booked, for that time. It was an evening tour, I guess you could say. But the best part was not only the ambiance and the drinks, it was just actually being in the water and seeing the sun go down.
Now, I ask you this as someone who didn't live in California growing up. When I was in 5th grade, we would go on a whale watching tour. So it wasn't unusual that we go out, we get to see the whales, we may see some sea lions and everything. Okay. Did they have anything like that on the East Coast?
You know, I really never experienced it unless I went to Boston.
Okay.
In New York, no, because it's, you know, I can't believe I'm going to say, you know, it's kind of grimy to be in the water. It's not, you know, it's not crystal blue or you don't see.
Wait a minute. Have you not read the news lately about LA beaches?
Yes, I know. But, you know, there's something, you know, we don't have palm trees in New York. We don't have palm trees over there. So it's a different ambiance. It's you know, you could have a yacht and you could probably cruise around the harbor, but it's just not the same as being in California.
You got shipping containers.
Yeah, you do. No, it isn't. Now, I've done some really nice touring on yachts in Puerto Rico and in Florida, but you know, you have those beautiful crystal clear, you know, waters and the white sand that's kind of like powderish.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's different. It's so different, but I have to say this was really nice. The weather was beautiful. I would say that if you are going on a yacht and, you know, let's say ladies, you're wearing a tank top or something, I highly recommend that you wear SPF because the sun is pretty potent out there in the water.
Very quickly, the contact information again for people who are interested.
cruisenewportbeach.com. That's cruisenewportbeach.com. Also, I talk a little bit about it on Frequency podcast, and we just ended season 10. We are starting season 11 next week. Our last episode was about mother-in-law moving in and changing the dynamic of the house. You could catch us on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, and on Instagram, we are Frequency Podcast. That's FREQUENSHE podcast. And our logo is a lipstick and a microphone all together. So if you see that, you know you found us.
Nautica de la Cruz. When we come back, the hidden gem for this week on Later with Mo Kelly.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
And now back to Nautica de la Cruz with the hidden gem for this week.
Thank you, Mo. Today's hidden gem is Alicia Farro. She was born in Madrid, España, Spain. She is a retired art teacher who firmly believes that art is food for the soul. After moving to Los Angeles in the early 80s, she quickly fell in love with the city's vibrant culture. Throughout her teaching career, Alicia painted murals for schools and conducted art classes at the YMCA, sharing her passion for art with the community. Alicia understands that every brushstroke tells a unique story. She believes that art is therapeutic and powerful form of expression, whether it involves painting, cutting, pasting, using watercolors, or coloring with crayons and colored pencils. Alicia is now a grandmother, and she takes great pride in the creations her grandchildren make for her, proudly displaying them with a magnet on her refrigerator, like a lot of grandmothers do. Alicia discovered a flyer promoting a local volunteer event for BigSunday.org. Intrigued by the organization's mission, Alicia decided to get involved, not realizing the profound impact it would have on her life. Her first project with BigSunday.org involved revitalizing a rundown park in a marginalized neighborhood. Armed with paintbrushes, gardening tools, and a team of enthusiastic volunteers, Alicia experienced firsthand the transformative power of collective effort. As the park blossomed into a vibrant communal space, she felt an overwhelming sense of fulfillment, sparking a deep-rooted commitment to the organization's cause. Through her involvement with BigSunday.org, Alicia has demonstrated that community service extends far beyond just being a volunteer. It's about building bridges, nourishing empathy, and creating lasting positive changes, as well as meaningful connections with like-minded individuals. BigSunday.org is a Los Angeles nonprofit organization dedicated to building a community through service. Founded in 1999 by David Levinson, the organization has expanded now, engaging thousands of volunteers annually with a large number of service projects. From neighborhood cleanups and food drives to educational programs, environmental initiatives, BigSunday.org offers diverse opportunities for people of all ages, all backgrounds to get involved and make a difference. Beyond large events, Big Sunday runs several ongoing initiatives to support different segments of the community. Programs like End of the Month Club help fight food insecurity by organizing monthly food drives, while TGIW, which stands for Thank God It Work, assists those struggling finding employment by providing job readiness support. Additionally, Big Sunday hosts seasonal events such as Back to School Drive, which they're going to have soon, holiday parties, sing along, a lot of great stuff, especially during the holidays as well. They try to get the community involved as much as possible. And if you would like to get involved or volunteer or donate, you could always visit BigSunday.org. Alicia Farro, I want to say thank you for bringing a little bit of vibrant color to the world with your kind and your kind heart. And I just want to say thank you so much for telling me your story and how you got involved. And thank you for being today's hidden gem. And I want to add, I actually made a phone call. I spoke to the founder of BigSunday.org. His name is David Levinson. And one of the things that intrigued me about this organization is I have never, Mo, heard of an organization that helps other organizations. So a nonprofit helping other nonprofits. And they do things at no cost. For example, it's just not for children. It's for example, the elderly. David was telling me that there was an elder woman who needed her refrigerator broke and someone found out and she couldn't afford it. And so they ended up finding, I don't know if it was through Facebook Marketplace or something. Mm-hmm. They got a refrigerator, and they used some funding and they gave it to her at no cost. And it's nonprofits helping nonprofits. And you don't hear much about that, which I think is wonderful. And I think that it's nice to have an anchor next to you to go, hey, I could always call BigSunday.org and go, we need a little help with this, or we need some volunteers, or how can you help us pass out flyers? And they're also having their 15th annual Back to School Week. So if you would like to get involved, like I said, go to BigSunday.org. That's BigSunday.org. They want volunteers to come together. They're trying to get and fill up at least 4,500 backpacks.
And how did you find Alicia?
Alicia is, okay, how do I explain this? Alicia was referred to me of someone on LinkedIn who was like, she has a great story. And speaking of LinkedIn, I want to say to our listeners, thank you. I do have an IG and I do have an email if you would like it. It's nauticaonair@gmail. And on Instagram, I'm at Nautica de la Cruz, on Instagram. But I've been getting messages on LinkedIn and I'm like, oh, you could have emailed me, but that's okay.
Hey, however they find you is how they find you.
Whatever. I just love, the stories. And I have another young gentleman that I want to interview. He started a nonprofit and, he wants to tell his story too. So I think that's beautiful. And I want to say thank you so very much.
And also be sure to check out Nautica de la Cruz on the Frequency podcast.
Yes. Season 11 is coming next week. Follow us on Instagram at Frequency Podcast. And you could also follow me and at Amy Lopez too. She is, I don't want to say she's my co-host. She's my equal. And we always have a great time. So it's great. I'm sure we're going to have some really good conversations in season 11. We've been doing this since 2020, I believe. Yeah.
A lot of things came out of the pandemic, huh?
Yes. We were both going through stuff in life, and we were like, one day we went to Cafecito right here in Burbank, and she said, hey, what do you think of this idea? And I was like, well, great. I was like, let's go on Amazon. Let's get 2 wonderful Rode microphones, and I'll get we'll hook it up to my laptop. And we started, and here we are 4 years later.
Amen to that.
Yes.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
Now on Nature with Mo Kelly, Mark talks about movies and TV, pontificates about pop culture. Rahner Report with Mark Rahner. Mark Rahner right now. Mark Rahner right now. Mark Rahner right now. Report with Mark Rahner.
KFI Mo Kelly live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Now Mark Rahner with the Rahner Report.
Tonight, Batman, Caped Crusader. Now, I'm going to get this started and then open it up to argument and insults. But first, I'll admit up front, I don't watch a lot of cartoons. Sorry, animated shows. You know why? Time's up. Because I'm an adult. But I got sucked into the new Batman Caped Crusader series on Amazon Prime because it's Batman, and I'm a lifelong Batman nerd. I showed Tawala my Batman underwear the other day. And he didn't report me to HR either. I thought I was going to sample one episode, then it was 4, then all of them. I'm not big on impulse control. Here's some of the trailer.
Asking the question on everyone's mind these days, what do you think about the Batman?
I'm frightened. This whole city's gone to hell in a handbasket.
Well, he's breaking the law, ain't he? So they ought to catch that freak and lock him up.
I won't say it's going to be easy, but catching criminals is what we do. So this one dresses up like Dracula, so what? We're going to take him down. What do we know about this Batman?
He's been beating the tar out of muggers and dope peddlers out there the last few weeks.
He's mostly been seen at night driving that hot rod of his 100 miles an hour.
And now he's even attacking our brave police.
Nice car.
This man is not a hero, he's a criminal. And his time in Gotham is up.
Mischief afoot, sir?
3 explosions in 2 weeks. Peculiar. There's something more going on here.
Now, before we really get into this, these are some of Mark's Batman rules. You like that? If anyone tells you the 60s Batman series sucks and they don't like Adam West, never listen to anything that person says again about anything. Entertainment, politics, dating. The person has nothing to offer you. That was point 1. Point 1.5. Burt Ward is criminally underrated and is hilarious as Robin. And Brendan Thwaites in HBO's Titans was terrific as well.
Holy hole in a donut.
Okay, let's go back to this. Number 2, the more your hero has to endure, the more satisfying the story. Batman and Daredevil were always my favorites because they weren't overpowered. You and I couldn't kick their asses, but they're human, they got to try harder, and they rely on nerve and brains and toughness and planning, and they can get hurt. Number 3, gay jokes about Batman and Robin are as hacky and offensive as it gets. Listen to me. Robin is a traumatized kid who needs a dad after his parents are killed, and he gets the best new dad in the world, and they go on adventures together, okay? Batman's a traumatized adult who suffered the same loss, and he wants to help the boy. Those jokes have always been stale. Point 3.5. That said, I don't like Batman having a succession of young wards, and I've lost track of how many there have been. 1 is heartwarming, a stable of them, not so much. Now, Batman Caped Crusader is 10 half-hour episodes on Amazon Prime, and it's set in the 40s with a pulpy noir look and feel. It features a younger Batman who's just forming his relationships with characters we all know, and he's kind of an a-hole. I like this physical depiction of Batman, not covered with body armor, not looking like a full-time bodybuilder on steroids. Do a Google search for Batman Thought Factory poster. What you'll find is an image from 1977 by the famous movie poster artist Drew Struzan. You'll recognize the style immediately. He did Star Wars and E.T. posters. I think he did Blade Runner too. It's one of the best ever renderings of Batman. It's about like you picture in real life, but still a guy in a bat suit. The bat fights in this cartoon are different. They're always different in any incarnation of Batman. If you remember, Michael Keaton looked like he could barely move or turn his head in his costume. I like those Christian Bale Batman movies, but his big fight with Bane looked like he was medicated, and we could go down the whole list. We don't have time for that. The fights in Caped Crusader are really nicely executed. No pow or wham stuff. There's a time and a place for that. Batman takes some punches, but he's tough, he's smart. It's only fairly recently that cartoons bothered to choreograph their fight action, and you can actually follow the movements in Batman Caped Crusader. There's even a supernatural episode involving some sort of homicidal horseman, and I thought, Oh, yeah, that works. More supernatural stuff with Batman. Why wouldn't you? The Alfred in this show is shorter and dumpier and looks more like Hercule Poirot than the Alfred we're used to. And by the way, the one we're used to is a knockoff of Hobson the butler John Gielgud played for Dudley Moore in Arthur. Remember that? Would you like me to wash your beep for you? That one? Back in 1986, when Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns became one of the two things that changed comics and pop culture forever, along with Alan Moore's Watchmen, Miller based his Alfred on Gielgud, this bitingly sarcastic but hyper-competent butler. In The Caped Crusader, Bruce Wayne calls him by his last name, though, Pennyworth. I don't care for that, or their relationship at all. But remember, it's younger Batman, and he's not a static character here. Things change. There's one scene between young Bruce and Alfred in a flashback that made me think, oh, they're onto something here. Sometime after Bruce's parents are killed, Alfred wakes up in the middle of the night to see young Bruce standing in the shadows in his doorway, looking almost possessed with grief and anger. And the boy says something along the lines of, I'm going to get them all. Every last one of them, Alfred. And they had me right there. Other characters in Batman Caped Crusader are changed more. There's a female penguin. Harley Quinn is black and gay now. Commissioner Gordon and his daughter Barbara are black. And here we go. I don't really like these conversations because they usually open the door for assorted bigots and dopes, and I'm not really interested in their opinions.
You're talking about race swapping of the characters, correct?
Yeah, these conversations.
Race and gender swapping.
Yeah, the conversations get tedious. And I'll open this up in a second, but the first thing you got to do is ask what's achieved with these changes. In this case, I don't know if it's much more than mixing things up for the characters that have been around for 80 years, give or take. Maybe it's just a diversity move. I don't know. Whether it's Batman or, say, James Bond, I generally think if you want to change a character very much, just make a new character. I'm not interested in a female Thor or whatever they did to Submariner in that Black Panther sequel, or throwing a bone to the LGBTQ crowd by making the Golden Age Green Lantern Alan Scott gay. And by the way to take a risk there, DC. Try it out on a really old character nobody knows or cares about anymore. And by the way, you remember Green Lantern, the Silver Age one? He's allergic to, his weakness is yellow. The Golden Age Green Lantern's weakness is wood. Did anybody think this through? Second, all superheroes are gay. I thought everyone knew that. Who else has abs and capes? And the answer about the 300 movie is, well, yes, obviously. Just make a new character. I think there's going to be a female Silver Surfer in the new Fantastic Four movie, and nobody wants that, even if it's based on one that eventually was in the comics. That said, if it's done well, it sticks. I mentioned Alfred. I also like Nick Fury, the one I grew up with, but the Samuel Jackson Fury grew on me, and it didn't disappear, the old one. We'll always have that crappy David Hasselhoff Nick Fury movie from 1998, too. There's lots to nitpick about Caped Crusader, but it's got enough going on for it. I plowed through that whole thing in short order. Mo, Tawala, time for you to weigh in.
Okay, if you don't watch animated media for adults, there's something wrong with you, and everything you said after that was invalid. Everything.
A little harsh.
A little accurate.
I'm not saying I don't watch any, but...
No, but I'm saying if you don't watch it, how are you to then critique it or review it if it's not even a genre you closely follow?
Well, like you would anything else. It's a story with a beginning, middle, and end, and elements that are familiar to people who consume items on Earth. It's not that complicated.
Look, the fact that you are some type of shut-in who can't open yourself up to adult animation.
Ad hominem argument there.
It's weird, but
it's still accurate.
This series, and I've watched up to episode 8, and it is done by the same team essentially that did the Batman animated series of the 90s, which was really, really good, and that is the staple for Batman stories. If you have not watched Batman the animated series with Kevin Conroy as the voice and Bruce Timm and all that creative team that brought us such amazing stories, then this may seem new. For me, this wasn't new. This was Bruce Timm with J.J. Abrams and the guy Matt Reeves, I think, who's involved in the new Batman. Mm-hmm. They all got together and said, hey, we want to do a new updated version of that old series. And to me, the writing, it's okay. You know, there are some familiar names, friends of yours, Mark, that are writing on it, Ed Brubaker and things like that. But I watched that, I said to myself, this is a more adult version as far as the language and the interactions between some of the characters are a lot more adult than the Batman animated series, because that was a serial that ran on TV for kids. But as an adult watching, I was like, these stories are very, very grown. These are adult stories that are told. So I thought it was okay. To me, the race swapping of Jim Gordon and Barbara Gordon, making Penguin Woman, stuff like that was just silly. It was like, who is that for? Because it's not part of the advertisement, and that's not something that's in the story that's supposed to draw in, viewers. So it's like, why do it outside of just saying, we want to do something new? It's cool. I like the storytelling. I like the action. It's a little disjointed in how it's told. It's just one thing happens after another, and there's no real through line outside of Batman, which throws me a little bit, but it's all right.
All right, I haven't seen the series, but let me just be contrarian for a moment and throw some monkey wrenches in both your arguments. I'm not a fan of the race swapping of characters either, but I also know that these stories were written at a time where Gotham, you can't see my air quotes, and the analog to it, New York, looked very different, and America looked very different than today. And if you're telling a story about Gotham, air quotes, analog New York, it would kind of make sense if it looked different from the 1950s and 60s, would it not?
This story being told in the 1950s, 60s,
40s.
Or 40s, yeah, even then, some of the things that are in it don't make sense.
Okay.
James Gordon being black.
In the 1940s,
in the 1940s, and also being, the top cop, stuff like that is like, wait, what?
Mm-hmm.
The things like that are the things that stand out, and they even made note of it. There's even a episode where the mayor says, basically, James, you're a DEI hire. Don't forget that.
Really?
Basically, he alludes to it. So it's like one of those, like, me hiring you was already supposed to be a good thing for the community. Now, what do you? So stuff like that, I'm like...
So it's through a contemporary lens, but it's set in the 40s.
Yeah, so you throw that in there, and I'm like, so did you put a black James Gordon because you wanted to say that? Because the character's not black, and there's no need to make him black, because that's not something that we're going to Batman for. We don't go to Batman like, man, if there's no black James Gordon, I'm not watching it. That's not how it works.
Or if there is a black James Gordon, that's going to make me watch it.
And that's what I'm saying. Throughout all of the race swapping and gender swapping that Marvel and DC and all these companies have done, none of that was done to draw us in, because it's not part of the advertisement. It's one thing if you say, hey, and you put Idris Elba as Heimdall out front in the advertisement of the film, maybe that. But if it's just we go in and watch the film, then I'm against the argument that that's to bring in a broader audience, because none of those things were used to get us in there. The main character is Superman, Batman, Spider-Man. We go in to see them. So when you're surprised, it's like, ha-ha, we're going to all of a sudden make, Robbie Robertson black. It's like, what? Why?
Mm-hmm.
Or not Robbie Robertson, but Perry
White.
Yeah. You're going to make him black, and, that's like, but why? When you have Robbie Robinson, who is black.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm saying. You could have made Lawrence Fishburne Robbie Robertson. You could have just done that instead of changing the race. You don't have to change the gender of characters just because you want women to go see films or superhero films. Use the established female superheroes that you already have. So if not, what you're saying is, hey, ladies, yes, we know you've read about these characters all along, but they don't matter enough for us to respect your nerdism. We're going to change a character that is a guy and make that one a woman? Why? That's what I'm saying. I don't like it when they do that, because you're disrespecting the intelligence of the people who are core fans for this product, and also then disrespecting those who aren't.
Well, the only thing is we do have to go to break. I don't think any of this stuff, for the most part, is about the core fans. I think, and that goes back to our earlier conversation, they want to make content that people are going to watch regardless of how they get there or why they get there.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's Later with Mo Kelly. We'll get it on the other side, Mark. You'll have the code on it. We're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
We're doing a special, actually carryover version of the Rahner Report, because Mark Rahner was getting into it regarding this new Batman animated series. It inspired a lot of debate beyond just the show itself. And you were going to say, Mark.
Well, we were talking about swapping genders and races and whatever of characters. And I think we actually all wound up agreeing that we're not really into it unless there's a good reason to do it. Do I have that right, Tuala?
No, absolutely. He's actually in the other studio getting calls. But yes, I can answer for him that no, none of us are into it. It doesn't add to the story. It doesn't add to the interest of people wanting to see the story. And so it's actually answering a question that nobody asked, and it's trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they were trying to update it. You got to figure that like 1940s Gotham City was awfully white, right?
Yeah, it would have to have been.
And when you look at the stuff we grew up watching on TV, network TV, remember like Uhura and on Star Trek and Peggy on Mannix? Mm-hmm. Those were two of the only non-white people who were regulars on network TV.
Yeah, with the exception of a couple of other shows, not going to get into that, but very, very few. But TV usually, and this is the counter argument, televised programming usually reflects the times in which we live, not necessarily the times in which they're set. Star Trek had a lot of people of color on it and was set well into the future. It didn't reflect society at that time. So it can go either way.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, you're going to run into static, I would imagine, in the year of our Lord 2024, if you want to put any show on the air, which is just nothing but white people and nobody else on it, because that's just not the reality that we live with anywhere. I mean, not even in Spokane, where I grew up, okay? And that's the whitest city I've ever seen.
Well, television is programmed for the big cities. That's where your biggest media markets are. Number one, New York. Number two, Los Angeles, and so forth. Mm-hmm. And if you're talking about major metropolitan areas, they are very diverse. And if you're trying to reach those areas, then yes, you probably would have programming which more reflects those demographics.
Yeah, and you and I have both been in media for a really long time, and we've had all sorts of diversity training, and I've even been put as punishment, believe it or not, on a diversity committee.
No.
Because I worked at Gannett, and Gannett is notorious. Gannett's the big newspaper chain that runs USA Today, and I don't know what the number of total papers they have is now, but it used to be 100 or 200. I pointed out that they get scores, like management gets scores for like the number of minorities in a photograph or that kind of thing. They'll send a photographer to chase after the one person of color in a crowd of thousands because they get some career advantage out of that. And I found that to be a little on the dishonest side. And as punishment, I was put on the diversity committee, which is weird because it's a thing in real life that ordinarily I would support and have no problem with.
Well, I don't know if we'll be able to solve the ills of America, or whether, let me put it another way. I don't know if entertainment can solve the ills of America, but there is evidence to suggest that entertainment has pushed us in the right direction over the years and decades, even though I don't agree with a lot of the decisions which are made in entertainment.
I think that this is something that you have to accept even more than you were arguing earlier in the show, that we have to accept AI. And there's your call back.
Well, yeah. Well, no, but I don't know if I want to make the subtle distinction. We don't necessarily have to accept it. And that's different from acknowledging that we can't prevent it. What I mean is, I'm not going to accept racism in society. Okay. That's just me. As an African-American man, I'm not just going to accept it, but I'm also, I'm not naive to think that we will ever be without it in society.
Now, we're finding that out, yes.
Okay.
I think we finally we agree on something else.
That's all I'm going to say. Just each and every time it rears its ugly head in front of me, I'm going to kick it in its teeth. But I'm not so naive to think that it will ever be gone in my lifetime. That's all.
When you kick it in its teeth, I want you wearing a cape.
I don't wear.
Nah, you look good in a cape. I can see it.
It's the cape. It's the Speedo, the colored Speedo. It's not me.
No, that's perfect on you.
And the boots. No, that's okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you got to have boots. Big, tall boots. Look at the time.
We're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
Critical thinkers wanted.
KFI
And KOST HD2.
Los Angeles, Orange County.
Live everywhere on the iHeartRadio.